Hello, love.
Hello, MotoGP World fans, and welcome to this special edition of Talking TT and MotoGP with myself. And this time I'm joined by a good mate of mine. We'll all recognize the face and the voice. It is, what are you trying to show? Oh, all the logos. It is, of course.
The MotoGP World, baby. MotoGP World. So there it is. MotoGP World.
Always brand art, logo art, brand art.
We try.
Greg Moloney, how are you doing, my buddy?
Good on you, Robs.
All good, nice and busy and getting a suntan here in the UK, believe it or not.
I believe when I left there, the sun came out and it hasn't gone away.
It's been the best weather the UK's ever had in its existence, and it's.
I'm sure. Yeah, I left, which took me a while.
I was going to say, I'm glad to see that you finally made it back to South Africa.
I literally got home about 5 minutes ago.
The trip down was a disaster. The trip back was even worse, but we made up for it in between. So it was a good time. So, Greg,
for sure.
We've wanted to do this now for a couple of weeks, but timing just hasn't been brilliant. So this has worked out perfectly now. We've got a lot to talk about. You joined me for the Silverstone MotoGP race. Scott Mordaunt. Hey, Rob and Greg. How are you doing? Scott, David Hawes, how are you doing? Thank you for tuning in already. So, you stopped over before you went over to the TT. You stopped over, and myself and you went off to Silverstone MotoGP. Great. I didn't realize at that time, and you made mention it as we got there, it was your first MotoGP since you had commentated the one back in South Africa in 2004, whatever it is. So it was the first time we had seen kind of all the big trucks and modern day MotoGP in its finest.
Modern day MotoGP, 100%.
Talk to us about what you felt, the experience.
Look, I think the biggest thing for me was having seen what we had at Pekisa, which was bare minimum. I mean, we literally had the teams, their bikes, and a couple of tools, etc., that could be brought in by courier companies. Walking into Silverstone, first of all, was an experience of note because I've always sort of wanted to do one of the famous British tracks. In hindsight, I probably wouldn't have chosen Silverstone now that I know where we went to and what we did, and not taking anything away from the experience, which we'll chat about. But like people have asked me, do we need to go to Silverstone? I said to them, no, do yourselves a favor, go to Mugello, go to Aragon, go anywhere else other than Silverstone. Because, as we saw, the visibility is quite limited unless you have some form of transport to get you around. And bicycle/e-bike is ideal. However, if you don't have one of those available to you as an option, it's a TomTom taxi or left and right foot, which you and I experienced on 2 nights, which is quite a lack of 5.5K walk after a full day's work. But needless to say, and all that aside, that's what the experience is about. I mean, most people that come there as Joe Public and the general people that are coming as fans, they've got to park 10,000 miles away and walk in or be bussed in or do whatever they got to do to get into where they got to be. The experience itself was spectacular. I mean, to walk into that paddock and as you see, precision military style parking, VIP facilities, helmet designers, helmet preparation, leather preparation, all the tire manufacturers there, even down to the sort of Moto2, Moto3 into the support races. They all were like literally military precision. And I think that does a huge amount in terms of people seeing what the show is on TV and what you see behind the scenes. And a lot of people don't realize what goes on behind the scenes. And, like, for instance, our mate at Red Bull KTM, he literally doesn't go and just park the truck. He parks the truck. He spit and polishes the entire truck, which is an 18-wheeler semi, and there's 3 of them, which he's got to do every single one. That's his job. But it's also not a case of just parking it. They've got to rotate the wheels so that Pirelli or Goodyear or whoever are all in the same line. And they're all exactly the same, and they're all polished the same. And, it's that fine detail that changes what we see at World Superbikes, what we see at BSB, what we see at Nationals, what we used to see at Super GP, and it just ups it to a level that no one else can attain, in my opinion. Even at TT, TT has changed dramatically, which we'll get into later. But just sticking with that whole look and feel of the pit lane and paddock area, they've even upped their game. They've gone that route to make it look as pro or as close to as pro as what MotoGP has set the bar at. When I say set the bar, we also spoke about, the fact that when you're walking down that paddock area, you've got one side, which is all the trucks and the teams and the riders and the access to their pit lane. The other side is VIP hospitality beyond compare. I mean, you literally walk past going, geez, I'd love to be sitting in that room. And, we were very fortunate with Trackhouse to get that breakfast in the morning. But even that was something that a lot of people don't get to experience.
Yeah.
A lot of guys pay big money to go and do that. It's not a cheap thing for a South African to go there. And I mean, there were a lot of South African fans. And of course, probably the British round, one of the most easy to get to. Or any European round, I should say, as opposed to the ones that are further flyaways. But it's still it's a massive cost. And I mean, we look at what Perron did and spent the weekend there. Or if you look at what, the guys that went on lesser budget that were sitting in the crowds, and you could see the South African flags waving, they've paid a certain amount of quid in rand value to get onto that grandstand. So the show is not what we see on TV only. And that, I think, was a big eye-opener for me because I hadn't seen that at Pekisa.
Yes.
I saw it a little bit when we did, 92, I think was the last Grand Prix?
Yes.
At Kyalami?
Yes.
So the last F1 was 93, but the last what wasn't MotoGP was 500 at that stage, was 92. And 92 had, you had your Lucky Strike Suzuki, you had your Rothmans Hondas, you had all those Marlboro Yamahas. So there was still that look and feel because of the cigarette advertisers, and of course they had the ability to bring the trucks in to the old Kyalami pits.
Yes.
And that was before the new style Kyalami was put together. So there was still access for trucks at the bottom in the paddock area, which currently there isn't. So if we ever had to have an F1, which is the big talk at the moment, but MotoGP, if necessary too, it's not a viable option to do what I saw at Silverstone. So that was a big eye opener for me because I mean I look at it from not only from a race fan's point of view, and of course you and I were both massive fanboys walking around that paddock area whenever you see somebody, there's that guy, But that's what you do. It's the world we live in, and as much as we have to try and stay as professional as we are when we do our job, there's still that fanboy aspect, and I don't think anybody will ever get away from that. I mean, you look at when Rossi and Federer got together on the grid, and they were like, best mates high-fiving, because they both understand the level of competition they've been involved in.
Yes.
So from a spectacle point of view, I think that was the one thing that sort of broadened my horizons in terms of how this is all done on a huge scale. And then you think about, hang on a second, what do we got? 20 rounds, and they've got to go all over the world with this stuff. Maybe they don't have the same. They've got a flyaway kit. I know that when they go to Dubai and Doha and Australia and stuff. So there's a flyaway kit that they can literally pack up into a DHL container. The truck arrives, they unpack it that side, and there's a flyaway kit with some motorhomes and maybe a couple of marquee tents, etc. they could put up at those away events. But there's still that aspect that comes into it. And from a logistics point of view, I would love to be the logistics manager for MotoGP, Brett. Can you just imagine the scale that has to go into the pre-planning? And I mean, I know when I did a whole bunch of stuff with the NASCAR guys with my dad, he chatted about, the logistics because he's also big into trucking. And of course, he looked after all the logistics when we had the big events here, when F1 x2 and Grand Prix Masters came out. And he was saying, NASCAR have a scenario where they literally have 3 or 4 different logistics teams. So let's say you're going to go from Daytona to Charlotte and from Charlotte to Indy. There's already a team at Indy that is preparing to come back to Daytona. The team from Daytona is going to Charlotte and Charlotte's going to Indy. So they rotate the entire structure, which I'm sure works on a similar basis to these guys. But then, of course, then you're looking and go, hang on a second. But then how does our mate at Red Bull KTM get into that truck and go there and then go there and go there? Understand when it's short distance like it is for this week when we went from Mugello to Assen. But the longer hauls are, that's why they need the 2-week break, because they've got to get those trucks from one side of Europe to the other. So I think that particularly got me going. It was pretty spectacular. The other thing that sort of woke me up a little bit in terms of what we do here, and it's something I've tried to portray since I've got back, is we are so far behind in terms of, first of all, the marketing and promotion.
Oh, yeah.
And secondly, how we handle teams, management of teams, and media and social media. We're not even in the same ballpark. We're toying around in a kindergarten compared to what they're doing at tertiary level there. That's the comparison I make.
Yes, yeah.
And you know, when I walk into a media center like we were at Silverstone, and I've been in some pretty big media centers in my career. And when I walk into TT's one, for instance, also very, very, very professional, and how they handle the different tiers of media. So we have me as a journalist, you as a journalist coming in from Motor Rider World. We have the television, we have the radio, we have social media influencers, etc., etc. And I got to see that, and it was actually quite a cool thing to do. And as I said from the start, a massive thanks to you for organizing it. But I got to see how some of that media that we saw at MotoGP changed their level.
Yes.
When they go to TT.
Yeah.
So the guys we were sort of having a bit of banter about in the car on the way home, and you say, they don't ask the same question every single time. How boring was he? How contrived does he sound? You get him at TT, he's a completely different guy.
Yeah, it's suit and tie. Yeah.
I don't understand it, because that's not how you should be. You and I arrive as Rob and Greg, and that's what we are. So we don't do it like they do. Yeah. And then you get like, what is her name, Martina or whatever, coming up to us and saying, why are you guys not sitting in the media center? And we're saying, we are. No, but you're chilling on the couch. And I'm like, but we don't have to be sitting at a laptop to do the job that we do. We're going to give you as much exposure, if not more, by what we do by standing and looking at the big screen and looking at it from a rider's point of view, which we both have been. You more professional than me, but I can also look at it from a rider's point of view. And then I look at it from a commentary point of view, which both of us have been as well. So the collaboration we have as professional rider, professional commentator, and amateur rider, amateur commentator, mixed like we've been in the past, puts together something that people can relate to.
Yes.
And when I say that, today I did my breakdown of everything, so I can send it through to you and to the other sponsors that were involved. And in the collaborations with you, I'm still waiting for Sean to send me the final figures from the mag, but I've said I'd wait for the mag until it ran for a month just to get the article, because I want that sort of to have a month's run.
Yes.
But from lead up the day before I left to today, which was exactly a month, and in collaboration with the other two TT fan sites, which I collaborated with and I got permission to collaborate with, and of course we met the lady from Superbike News, which we collaborated on a whole bunch of stuff with as well on TT side, not so much on MotoGP side, because that would be a clash, but there was no clash on the TT side, which worked nicely. We're sitting on nearly 50 million views, buddy.
It's incredible, eh?
And that's in it's in a month, but 589 posts in 2 weeks is what we're talking about. Really? And the scary thing, Rob, like I looked at it today and went, no, I actually can't believe this. I went into the analytics and I said, what's the best post? What performed the best? Blah, 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 blah. And as per last year, like I showed you, last year's post, the best one was that selfie that Rossi took that I made and said, arguably the best selfie in the world, Darren in the background, Michael, and all the pros, etc. When he did that monster camp at his track. And I went, no, I can't, my video content can't be beaten by a photo again.
Yes.
And Rob, you're going to laugh. Everybody listening and everybody watching, I can't see the comments, but I'm telling you now, I'm going to put it out as a sort of shortened version of the report. Yeah. But the best content I had over the entire 2 weeks and up to the month of TT coverage was me standing in the media center when Davey Todd came into the winner's enclosure at TT and he won the Superbike.
Yeah.
And of course, Peter had just come out of hospital. He was in the wheelchair and they wheeled him down to the winner's enclosure. And he was on the sideline and the TT Plus cameras went onto him. And they did like a quick little 2-seconder with him. How are you feeling? Is everything okay? He came back with a little bit of a comment. It was very, very quiet, calm. He didn't want it to be about him. But as they pulled away, he went to wipe a tear, but it was a genuine like tear of joy because his mate had just won 8-10, had won their first, race together. And you could see he was quite emotional in his interview. And I got a photo, it's literally standing of the television screen in the media center, which I zoomed in on. And I took a photo of him just kind of doing this. And I said, an emotional Peter Hickman after 8-10 take their first victory, blah, 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 blah. Well done, great job. 298,000 views.
Jeez.
On a photo of a screen in the media center.
Yes.
And once again, it just proves to you, Rob. I mean, we spoke about it the last time. It's literally those keyboard warriors that went on and had a go about what had happened, why they hadn't explained it, etc., etc. TT was that wrong, they were wrong. And then one lady probably set the cat amongst the pigeons more than anybody else. She came on and asked whether the riders at any point in time have therapy for possible PTSD.
Yes.
So the crash, as you know, you've been in a massive one yourself, and thank God, touch wood, I've never had one myself in a big way that you had. But I know from my side, when you went down, and I had to come to the hospital that night and meet Amy.
Yes.
That was one thing that was on my mind. I was like, how are you going to recover? What's the process of your recovery? Not the physical side, the mental side, because the TT is a different animal.
Yeah.
His crash last year, Ginger Hall should have killed him. He crashed 500 meters later doing 50 mile an hour more, and he survived. So this chick came on and said, I don't know, do they get PTSD? And of course, then everybody, what the hell you don't know what you're talking about. You know what you're talking about. Eventually, if you go through the comments, Peter himself jumped on, and he literally put them all straight.
Yes.
And I was like, that was spectacular for me, to get the actual rider to jump in and back what we're doing as a content creating media format is gold,
Absolutely. No, well, that was the good thing that came out of it. I think, in years gone by, what I could see the most is, we were trying and we were getting better and better every year, and we were kind of chipping away at things. And I think I said to you, even after Silverstone, or I messaged you during the TT, I think I messaged you the one saying, it looks like you finally took a big crack out of everything that we're trying to do, because even walking around Silverstone, people were like, hey, are you the guy from Talking MotoGP? I watched your thing. Oh, great. And then you knew people from TT. Hey, great. You know what I mean? So all that kind of recognition. And then that lady that's from Superbike News, oh, where are you from? Motor Rider World. Oh, I know Motor Rider World. You know what I mean? It was just all that kind of recognition and going, okay, we are being seen. We are chipping away. We're not just this tiny.
The cogs are starting to mesh.
Yeah, exactly. So it was that pat on the back that we need. As you said to me as well, you went to TT this year, and all of a sudden you're getting invited to the smallest cog invite and this and this. Whereas years before it was like, here's your pass, sit in the corner and shut up if you don't mind. But
exactly,
all the big boys play. This time, even at Silverstone MotoGP, you're one of the big boys now. You stand there, you ask the questions to the riders in the debriefs. Superbike News want to share your content and get your content because it's worthwhile. So yeah, I really did. I'm not involved in it anymore with my job with Zero and that. My brother very much does it in that. But I'm proud for me because I started Motor Rider World, gave it to my brother. I know the whole journey that you've gone through, and we've always collabed and done it. But I kind of looked at this going, there are nights and there's times where you go, is this worth it? Is it worth it?
Yeah. No.
Money, the sitting in the airport, delayed flight, another day away from your family, lying on a bench in the airport, sending me a photo saying, a big guy doesn't sleep well like that. All that, and you sit and you go, oh God, is it worth it? And then this trip, for me, the Silverstone part, but then also, WhatsApping and staying connected with you on the TT part really felt like that was it. That we've really made an impact this time, and by the numbers and everything that you're saying, it sounds like and looks like we've done that.
Yeah. No, look, I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. What goes into it. I chatted to Addie about it when we went to Extreme Festival on the weekend. She did some work with me there, and she was sitting around and she was like, you could see she was getting a little bit bored and didn't quite know what to do. And I sent her off to go and get some interviews, and she came back and she was like, she literally said to me in the car on the way home, she said, Dad, what do you do when you've finished everything? We're going home now, but you've been away for like the last 3 weeks. What happens when you go home? And I said, well, what do you think happens? So then you kind of explain exactly what you said, like it'll be waiting for the bus, first of all. So I'm standing, waiting for, sometimes the bus doesn't arrive. So now I've either got to do a 7K hike to the camp, or I've got to make a plan, or I've got to walk down to the shop and get something to eat, and then say, okay, find some guy. Thank goodness I did the one night when it was pouring with rain, and asked him literally, can I get a lift to the camp? Turned out to be the son of a South African that lives on the island. What are the chances? Well played, move on. And, then I get back to the camp, go and have a shower, climb into the tent, freezing cold tent, pouring rain outside, and I've still got to do all the content that I've created through the day and put it up and post it so that it's valid for the next day. And I think that's where the workload is. It's rewarding because it's a lot of work, but the reward comes from exactly what you said. You've got the likes of the TT media, the MotoGP media, the MotoGP riders, the MotoGP teams. I have to say the same thing happened a lot with a lot of the teams, especially riders I'd sort of made a fuss of last year. They'd seen their videos, and when I came to do the interview, it wasn't a case of
who's this guy?
No. The only one that gave me a bit of like negativity was Hutchie, but he misunderstood what I was doing. So I said to him, "It's not a problem. I'll come back to you later." Went back to him later, and we got what we needed. But like with Dom, I mean, that interview with Dom was one of the best interviews we had, and he's so charismatic as it is Herbertson. So when I went to him initially in the paddock area, he was like, no, I don't want to talk to you now. I'll talk to you later. So I was like, okay, cool, no problem. Came back. When he walked into the winner's enclosure, and I came up to him and I gave him the whole, now you want to talk to me. Then he was like, no, hang on a second. I didn't realize who you were. And, so there was that. And then, of course, with Davo, when I did the coach trip with Davo Johnson, which is something that I highly recommend if anybody's going to come with, and we're going to put a kind of a little package together that I'm hoping that we can, sell on to South African fans to come and support AJ and the rest of the TT riders. But, when he spoke about his experiences at the TT while he's doing a lap, and he talks about, what happened here and what happened there, and he literally gives you a blow by blow of every single inch of the circuit, literally. And you watch that, and then get off the bus, and he does a couple of selfies and some autographs with the people that are on the bus. So the VIPs that were on the bus get that little VIP experience, which is great. I was fortunate to join them as part of what we did with Duke. And, when he walked away, I said to him, okay, cool, I'll see you later. He said, but I've seen you in the pit lane. And I said, yeah, no, I'll be there during the day. And then, of course, when I came up to interview him afterwards, every day it was like, no problem. Okay, what do you want to know? How did it go? What happened? Same thing with James Hillier. Even Michael. And he's like persona non grata, but you cannot get to Michael.
Yes.
When I chatted to him in the interviews, you can hear he's professional, but it's not the same as TT where you can't talk to it's not the same as MotoGP where you're not allowed to talk to the rider afterwards. Yeah. While they're waiting to go on stage, you've got that one-on-one time with them where you can literally have a little chat. Unfortunately, the only thing I didn't have at that stage was the bloody helmet to get him to sign it. That's the only one I didn't get. But doesn't matter. We'll get that if we need to. We'll take it with next year and get him to sign it. Or when he comes out here, because he comes out here quite often now. So we'll get him to sign it then. But I think, in terms of following up with what you said, the little magazine that could is certainly doing what it needs to do now. When you started with the other side first and then left and decided to go on your own route, there was no way I was going to go anywhere else other than the way you were going, because I could see the value of your decisions. And when you made a decision, we spoke about it a lot when you went from print to digital, and you were like, guys still want a magazine on their table and they didn't this. And I said, yeah, but Rob, you've got to understand, this is the way the world is going. And my goodness gracious me, buddy, you made the right decision and you stuck to your guns. And I take my hat off to you, because it's a massive decision to make, to go from the outlay every month of paper, printing, magazine, finding articles, finding advertisers, etc. You still got that, but it's not the ball breaking process of having it all printed and getting it to the printers on time and making sure that it's on the shelves on time. And what a pleasure! That alone is a huge weight off your shoulders, and it's allowed you and Sean and everybody else that contributes time to focus, time to do what you need to do, time to give big mouths like me a chance to talk about what we love. But in terms of that, give you content that's well worth the readers and the viewers getting involved.
Yeah, I'm lucky. My brother's taken over the mantle, and I kind of heap the praise in a way, but I got the fun job to do. I get to do these live chats. I get to go to MotoGP as the journalist, and that my brother's the one back in South Africa finding the content, creating the content, taking the photos, creating the videos, doing all that. So, but I'm glad that the MRW stories continued, because when I came to the UK, there was no option for me to kind of carry that on. So I had to sadly, and emotionally leave that behind, not knowing where it would go and how it would sustain itself. It was a big job to lay it onto my brother, but with the helps of like yourself and everything, it really has carried itself. We're over 100,000 followers now on Facebook, which is great.
I saw that.
And
that's amazing.
Greg, even with the MotoGP, I was told you can get one pass as Motor Rider World for MotoGP. You're not big enough, you get one pass. That year that I did 2022, and Brett Lawson, I've got your question. I'll answer it in a second. I'll catch up with the comments and some questions just now. But in 2022, when I did the 13 rounds, I was offered a full permanent pass for the following year. I was honest with them and said, listen, 2022, I could do it. My family wasn't with me and we were moving and everything. But, afterwards, I need to find a full job and I won't be able to do this. Then they were very strict. One pass. You're kind of this tiny little entity in South Africa. Yay. I applied for Silverstone, got it, no questions asked. Literally a week and a half before, sadly let down by other parties to get a pass that you were going to get. And I, what are we going to do? Well, Caleb, let's try and apply for your media pass as the voice of choice or with FOST or whatever. And we put the application in as Motor Rider World. And I still remember going, geez, Greg, we're not going to get it. They'll never give us two. And I think you got the email as well. I was like, yeah, of course, no problem. And like you said, it's that credibility, it's that trust of walking up to riders now, and they know who you are. I mean, you would have also seen it at the MotoGP. It was great when, first of all, and again, I'll get to all the questions now, but I'm going to ask you to tell everybody that feeling and everything of going into Brad's pit and Brad Binder himself showing you his bike and everything he's got to do in a lap to get that MotoGP bike around. But we were walking through the paddock, and it makes me feel proud that I'm walking, and then Brad, and then Robbie from the team, and then Maria from Trackhouse Racing, who then invites this guy Jack Miller. We go to Jack at his motorhome to get the helmet signed, and there he is, and all that. It's just kind of that, again, that pat on the back for the hard work that you done, that you don't always, and I mean this in the nicest way, you don't always get in South Africa, if you know what I mean. You don't get those pats in the back. You do all that work and it's okay, you just get lowballed. Okay, well, why are you charging so much? Or ask for less.
Sharpen your pencil.
You're too expensive. Sharpen your pencil. And you're like, not just get patted on the back. And that was my biggest argument with some of my previous partners and stuff. There was never just that. To everyone that listens and supports, you get it, which is keeps you going. But from the industry itself, the insiders, you just never got that. And you're like, I've worked damn hard at this. I've blood, sweat, and tears, time away from the family, sacrificed everything. Just give me that pat on the shoulder, and I finally saw that now. So that was awesome. So, Greg, just moving quickly, tell us about Brad Binder. I mean, this is an opportunity not many people get. I wasn't expecting that MotoGP this time, but Brad Binder on the Thursday, I mean, he treated us like kings. We went into his motorhome, or his little GP room, fed us, clothed us, just bathed us, just about did everything, and then says, you want to come into the pit? Took into the pit, us into the pits. I'm very fortunate, I've done a lot, and then takes you up close and personal with his bike, and then gives you a full rundown of a lap on a MotoGP bike. Now, just explain to people that process.
Look, I think I know where you're going with this. With the kind of bad press he's gotten over the last couple of races, and the fact that everybody climbs onto their phones, climbs onto their keyboards, and has a full go about how can Brad still have a ride, and what is he doing, and it's a complete waste of time, and wada. And I'm always like inches away from chucking a comment in, because having experienced what we did there, and of course seeing where he's come from, and I mean I literally started my commentary career when he was still racing karts. He hadn't even climbed onto bikes yet, and I watch the progress he's done, where he's come from, and the relationship he has with his team is one of the biggest and most vital aspects you can have as a racing driver, rider, whatever you are, competitor. But to go into that pit and to see the setup they've got, first of all, is mind blowing. It's world class. You get to see it sort of as they follow a rider in, but you don't see the nitty gritty bits that are behind the scenes. The guy that's there still at 8 o'clock at night going through data. You know, the guy that's there from the tire manufacturer that's chatting to the guy with the data saying, okay, let's try this setup, let's try that setup. The suspension guy standing there at the same time going, maybe we need to change, whatever the white power or the whatever Ohlins or whatever they're using, let's make that change. But then Brad says, right, no, just come on in. And I'm like, we can't just come on in. He says, no, just come on in. I want to show you. And I'm like, okay.
Brilliant. Like, whoa, don't lock up.
They're about to lock. That's exactly it. They're locking the freaking garage, Rob. And he says, no, stop. Rob and Gregor here. Come on in. All right, let's go in. So I'm feeling, I wasn't feeling embarrassed, but I was like, it's a bit awkward because I know this guy wants to go. He's had a long day. He's got a long 3 more days to go. Yeah. Anyway, let's take the opportunity. Hands up. I was there for sure. Get to the bike. And I look at this piece of machinery. And I think to myself,
first of all, it's this big.
Yeah. If you see the bikes in the back here, okay, they're bigger than Brad's bike. Okay. Yeah, the ones in my collection, they're much bigger than Brad's bike. Okay. Brad's a tiny oak. He's not the biggest oak in the world. But when he puts you next to it, and I stood next to it, there's a photo on my page, you'll see. It looks like I'm going to get onto a 50. And I'm not the smallest man in the world. So when I stood next to that thing, I thought, how the hell does this thing generate that amount of power? How does he get to 370 kilometers an hour on this bike? Yeah. Because there's no way that this thing can do that. Then he goes into the description of the wings and what they do, and the fact that they've changed this wing and they've changed that wing, and then the side ones have come in, and they've got one similar to what the M ones have now got on the Yamahas, and they've now changed this one. I'm like, okay, cool, that works. And then he says to me, yeah, but you've got to be very careful because this one at the front actually lifts the bike. And now he's telling me about how he's having to control the wheelie of the bike because the new wing is actually lifting the bike up. And he's having to control that while he's thinking about gear change, where he is on the track, what his sector time is, looking at the data that's being put onto the screen in front of him, which is literally the size of half your cell phone, guys, if you're watching right now. If you're watching on your cell phone, half that cell phone, and look at that screen. That's what Brad gets in terms of the data fed to him to say, long lap penalty, pit, stop, whatever, okay? Tire pressure warning. Then go and take a Google, because you're all good at Google. Go into Google and Google cockpit of F1. Go and look at Lewis Hamilton's current Ferrari cockpit with the halo device above him and everything in front of him. Okay, that is inside Brad's cockpit, that whole setup, but on a micro scale. So where Lewis Hamilton's got a thumb shifter for this and a button for that and a this for this and a that for, Brad has all of that as well. So now I said to him, but hang on a second, this thing's point and squirt. You told me when it's in 6th gear, it's got so much torque. He says, yeah, but certain corners you've got to go back down to 1st gear. Certain corners you're going 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever. It's not changing gears like we know how to change gears, which is 1 down and 5 up, or if you're running a reverse box the other way around, whatever. But it's also, okay, when I'm in 4th gear, I need to push this button so that I get the right traction. At the same time, I need to be thumb braking the rear to get a bit of rear traction braking so that the back steps out of it. And then I've got to catch that and at the same time flick it into setting 2 on the, I'm like, my man.
And the right
there's something, dude. Yeah. I've done e-racing, and I've watched what these oaks do on their bloody on their consoles. Like a PS2 console. Take a PS2 console and times it by 1,000. That's what Brad is doing and every MotoGP rider, not just Brad. Every MotoGP rider is doing that on their bikes while they're doing 370 k's an hour with 30 oaks around them. No, my bro. There's something wrong with these kids. They're another breed. I have no idea. And that's what I hope people get from this conversation that we're having right now. This particular point of the conversation, please understand that Brad is doing what Lewis Hamilton does inside a cockpit of an F1 with no protection around him at 360 k's an hour. And most times he's averaging the 230 to 240 k an hour lap time. Okay, I'm not mile an hour, I'm talking about the kilometers an hour. And at the same time, still having to think about, I've just had a baby. And my beautiful wife is at home with the baby. And I want to get home tonight and I want to meet Rob and Greg and go and have a chat and maybe catch up with my brother. And mom and dad are here. And then, oh, hold on a second, Red Bull need me to do this and KTM need me to do that. And on top of all of that, which blows my mind when these folks throw in these comments about how cocky he is, KTM are in shit. And do they have a job? And every manufacturer is sitting pretty at the moment with Yamaha and Honda and Ducati are the best in the world and what. Brilliant. KTM, the oak that's putting on the tires doesn't know if he's got a job tomorrow or not. And now you're saying, okay, well, if he doesn't put the tire on properly and Brad goes down the road and the tire comes off, is that Brad's fault?
Yeah.
Or he goes into turn one and some Ducati flies up his inside and smashes into him and he takes out not himself and a Honda at the same time. Come on, guys. Be realistic. You're all very quick to jump onto your phones and have a go about the oak. But yes, if you see the job he's got to do, I mean, just go back to, doing what you do. Go and sell tires. Go and be a school teacher like I used to be. Go and talk on a microphone, whatever. But I promise you right now, there's a very few and far between amount of people in this world that have the ability that our Brad Binder's got to do what he does on that motorcycle.
I think what I've always said, Greg, is especially when I did that 2022 year, when you're in that, and you would have got a lot of piece of it because of the connections and everything that I made and having Brad in that MotoGP ecosystem, it's a different world. What we get on camera is a percent of what. And what people also don't understand is we got to spend time with Brad on that Thursday, which was great, but that was because it was the Thursday. As soon as Friday came, between Friday and Sunday, we saw him 3 times.
Once. Once, and then at the media briefings. That's it.
That's it. So you it's not like you get there and you go sit and this guy goes from Michelin meeting to a data meeting to suspension meeting, then to Red Bull meeting, then to the media debrief, and you earn a whole new respect for these guys in that ecosystem. So again, that's what people don't take into account often. I just want to answer this question from Brett Lawson quickly. It was miles ago. As a MotoGP fan going first time ever, what track would you say is the best to go to? So in my personal experience, Brett, it's Le Mans, Jerez, or Mugello for me. Catalunya was amazing. Assen was amazing. Assen is always the facility and everything, and the history and the cathedral of speed, that was amazing. But weather, you kind of never really know. Le Mans is if you want crowds and you want the atmosphere, those ones, as I've just mentioned. If you want a great atmosphere, well, a slightly less atmosphere, so not as crowded. So if you get in the paddock and it's not just you're not just bumping into people left, right, and center, but you still want a great atmosphere. Aragon is, I think, an underrated one. Misano is brilliant because then you can do the VR46 Tavullia trip, and Ducati's in Bologna, not too far away, and then Misano is just Marco Simoncelli is fantastic. So those are the ones, Brett, that I would definitely kind of go to, that I've done, that I've experienced, that I've gone. When I watch them on TV now, I get huge FOMO compared to a lot of the other ones. So, and then there was another.
Brett, if you want to go to Pakisa, bro, that was a proper good one, eh?
No, go to
Pakisa. I'm joking. But they were good. The 5 years that we had, they were brilliant.
Yeah, it was good. I was lucky enough to compete in one as a wild card in the P125s, but even the other ones were absolutely fantastic. Okay, no, that's another one. Okay, so Greg, before we get into TT, realistically, Brad has been the most consistent rider on the grid for years. Scott Mordaunt, nice, well said. Nice reality check, well needed for some. Thanks, Raven Zedda, nice. You hit the nail on the head, brother. Jody, I can't say.
Ihlenfeld.
Yeah, so Greg knows every single sir. This is me and Greg in a commentary. So coming up the hill, yes, Greg, he's doing a great job. It's Jody. Jody's made a great move.
Yeah.
Greg is my surname.
100%.
Great to have.
I agree with you, Rob. 100%.
Tegan
over to you
on the podcast. Yeah, I agree, Greg. Well done. Yeah.
Hello, Tegan Reid.
Yeah, we haven't. I think she's back in South Africa now. She's
back in SA for a little bit. Yeah. Her and Mr. Purden are back in the house, I think, and they're doing some work here.
cold.
I think they're getting ready. We got massive events on motocross coming this year, buddy, as you know.
Yes.
There's the big Supercross World Championship at the end of the year, King of the Whip again, and South Africa was gifted, which I'm fortunate enough to be going up for. Well, not Southern Africa was gifted the chance to take over from what was going to be in Uganda as the Motocross of African Nations, now going back to Harare. So Donnybrook will see some world-class African motocross championships happening there as well, which is really cool.
Freddie van Olst, Rob, we will be at Valencia. Valencia is another one, good one, Brett. That's almost, but it's just a little bit too crowded sometimes for me, but great atmosphere. Portimao is another good one. Nice holiday destination, a little bit quieter spectator-wise, so you have a little bit more freedom to walk around and stuff, but the facilities and going watching, especially if you get like a pass where you can go on the inside of the track, and it's a great spectacle as well. Okay, Greg, we can move on from the MotoGP stuff because we could actually talk about it for days. But I mean, you were 2 weeks on the island. That was your real main focus. You were geared up. You were more equipped and ready to go into battle for that more than ever. And you went there, and we've spoken about it. We've delivered. The numbers were great. I think, as I said, I was proud in the fact that you were invited to the smallest cog thing. Riders were accepting you, and the whole Greg Moloney kind of thing was just a lot more accepted and broader at the TT. What I mean, it was impacted by weather and everything. It was tough, but give us an idea of 2 weeks on the island as a camping, glamping, whatever you were doing.
So I think, pardon me. The last time I went, the first time I went, I got to stay with the team, and we sort of bunked in a house where everybody shared the house, the bathroom, and etc., which is kind of what most people do. They'll find a Airbnb or whatever, and they'll jump in, and guys literally give up their houses for the 2 weeks and go on holiday and hope they come back to a house that's still standing. That worked nicely. The second time we went, got to spend a bit of time on a little Airbnb which was put out, and the elderly couple that owned the house were amazing to me. They would drop me off at the grandstand in the morning, and I'd make my way back in the evening. Had a breakfast, had a bed to stay in, nice bathroom, and said whatever we need, it was everything you needed. And I kind of thought to myself, this year I need to maybe experience it from what the general fans are doing out on the island. And I contacted Duke Travel and Isle of Man TT Travel, and I said to them, look, we want to do something as a collab with them, with Motor Rider World, myself, Voice of Choice, and would they be keen to do something? And they sent me all the rates, and I looked at the rates, and they weren't much more expensive than if I'd found another Airbnb. I would have gone back to the original one I was at with Huey, but unfortunately he'd had a booking from 2 years ago, which had, I think, 9 Dutch guys that came from Holland, and he just didn't have room. So I said to him, look, understandable, not a problem. Anyway, in hindsight, it was actually a good move because it gave me a chance to go and see what the glamping facilities are like and what the TT village is like, which Duke put together. And it also opens up, a door for us to sort of promote the fact that we've got a South African rider and we need some South African support, like we get for the boys when they go to MotoGP. I mean, there's a massive following that follows them almost every single round if they can, if they've got that ammunition. But then there's guys who literally plan their year to be at Assen or to be at Aragon or to be at Mugello, whatever.
Yeah, yes.
And they make it a done thing. So the TT side now has a massive South African input because we have a rider that's now possibly, with how he finished up, going to be close to a seeded ride for the Superbike and for the senior. Okay, not for the senior because we didn't have the senior this year, but if you get seeded for the Superbike and for the Super Stock, that's massive for South Africa. No one's ever been a seeded rider, and in modern day times. Yes. Olden day times, different story. We had the Mark Foggs and the Jim Redmonds, etc., that were TT winners multiple times. But in those days, and it's quite cool because I actually got to chat about it on Friday morning, actually, with Peter Lapskakny.
Yes. And
he's of course raced and he finished, I think 13th and 14th was his best in the 350 class. But he was saying, in those days, the 350 class was made up of 80 riders.
Jeez.
The current paddock is only 200 riders.
Jeez.
So just in one class, there were 80.
Yeah.
And they all raced. There was no seating at that time. So all 80 bikes went out.
Just went.
See, so the comparisons that we make when I say AJ is the fastest rider ever, yes, in speed wise he is 100%, and that record will stand, and it probably won't be broken, not in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Maybe if the TT continues and younger riders see the opportunities that AJ is opening up for them, that'll happen. But when you look at what the previous reign had to do, and I even look at the likes of Clinton, Hudson, James, all the guys that went out there to go and just tick the box that they'd ridden it, is also hats off, well played. You made it, brilliant effort. I mean, I've always said to you, if I'd got into motorcycle racing at a younger age than what I did, and I got to be at the level that you got to, TT was certainly the one thing I had on my radar to do. Whether I went there to win the race or to be seated like AJ's done, or to be seated like any of our other riders have done in the past, that wouldn't have been the goal. My goal would have been there to go and tick the box that I've done it, finished, and come home.
Yes.
But in saying that, and to continue with the thought pattern that we've got, that whole look and feel of the TT has completely changed. And I mentioned it earlier on in the show where I said that there is a more professional side of the TT than what there ever has been in the past. So to go and experience it for what the average public guy is going to do gives me a chance to come back and say, okay, hey, Motor Rider World fans, here's what you can do. This is what I suggest on a South African budget at 25-1 to get the best value for money. This is what you can do. And in doing that, it literally opened up, a relationship which I know Duke are willing to continue with us as. And when I say us, I'm talking Motor Rider World, but with me as the representative there.
Yes.
And it's gone so far as that even other companies that I've worked for and other companies that have helped me out are looking to do the same thing. They're saying, okay, well, can we put a Motor Rider World package together? Can we put a Voice of Choice package together? And I'm saying, if it ever happens,
we had the same thing mentioned at Silverstone MotoGP with a very good.
No, exactly that. Like your contact at Grassini and of course Maria at Trackhouse, they would give us a VIP facility to host guests that we bring from South Africa. Now, I haven't quite got the VIP hosting connection there yet, but I certainly have how to get to the island, how to live on the island, how to get around the island, and where the best places are to eat at a South African budget.
Yes.
Which most people are just looking to do.
Yes.
If I want to do the VVIP where I want to bring, a high level, for instance, Junaid, I should say. If I want to bring Junaid in, I don't think the island can cater for his level, to be honest with you right now. And I know AJ and Sash and the whole team are kind of looking at an option for him to do. There isn't a facility that can host that caliber of person in the island. So he would have to scale down.
Yes.
Which that's up to him. I'm not going to make that decision. But even if I look at like their top hotel on the promenade, I would say rates with probably the best 3-star hotel in the country here in South Africa. It's nothing spectacular. There's nothing, exciting about it that you go, you want to be there. It's like walking into the V&A in Cape Town where you go, this is a hotel. No. You walk in, you go, it's like Faulty Towers. I'm not joking. That's what it's like. You're waiting for Basil to come out and go, ding, ding, yes, I can help you, and Manuel to come and fetch your case. It's that bad. But it's that good because that is what TT is. It's not a VIP experience. It's a biker's experience.
Yes.
So if you can take the biker's experience and you want to live, you're going to go the glamour camp route that I went for the first week, where you arrive, the campsite's set up on a football and rugby field. There's 180 tents. You've got one, or you're sharing one with 3 people or 2 people or 1 person, whatever, and you're going to slum it. But you're in a tent that's rainproof, windproof. It's secure. I never locked my tent once when I was there. There was no interference in any of my things. I left my phone and my camera on charge throughout the day in the tent that the charging booths were in, because you don't have power in your tent. You've only got a little lamp inside. But for the 5 days I had for practice week, it was ideal. There was no issues. To get the bus pass, easy peasy. You literally walk out of the airport, collect your bag, walk up to information, bus pass, pay the money. You got a 7-day pass. You can use it on the bus. You can use it on electric rail. You can use it on the train. Do whatever you want to do. Yes, faulty tires is a great one there, Tracy Lynn. You know what I'm talking about. But it's exactly that. And then once you sort of realize that it's not that bad, you can live with it. So you're playing football, and congrats on the award, by the way. I didn't get a chance to say that to you. The football ground that you play at has got the change room facility, which is probably a good one. It's got showers, it's got toilet, it's got place to have it. That's what we used as our change rooms, and we had to shower. So you literally come home from the day's work, drop our bags, walk up to the shower with my towel in my hand, shower, get back into the same clothes I had on, just with a clean pair of jocks, walk down, and then change in the tent.
Yes.
Because you've got to time it between. We had a lot of rain, so you've got to time it between the rain. Sometimes you go a little bit later, sometimes you go earlier, but you'd sort of look and go, okay, I can make it quickly, run quickly, do it, come back. The cool thing with what they did particularly with the Braddon camp, as opposed to the one that was down at where was the other one? The other one was at Governor's Bridge. The Braddon camp had that facility, but the rugby club joined them in helping with the catering. So every night from 6 until 10, they had basic British pub style meals. So you had bangers and mash, pie, chips and gravy, spag bowl. The one night they had a little chili bowl with rice, just the basic food, but home cooked, not takeaway style. Home cooked on the property. £7 fills you to the brim. Brilliant. Okay. Beer is expensive, so unfortunately you're going to pay for beer if you want beer. But cool drinks are £2.50, £3, depending on where you buy them.
Yeah.
So you can come home, and if you've missed the meal or you've been racing the whole night and you haven't got a meal, at least you know you're coming home and you've got until 10 o'clock to get home to have a meal there. And they literally wait until about 1:15 before they shut down. So guys that are coming in late still have a chance to get a chow.
Yes.
Food, very good. In the morning, it's not the rugby club. What they did this year is they got the hospice ladies from the hospital, because literally the rugby field and the soccer field is right next to Nobles. And you walk up to the little cafe that's there, which is their sort of kiosk that they'd use on a rugby or football game day. And then you got BAPS, breakfast roll, the basics, tea and coffee, before you head off to get the bus.
Yes.
The bus from my tent to the bus stop, right outside Nobles Hospital, is a 6-minute walk. You climb onto the bus from there, you go back into town, you catch the bus up to Grandstand, and it's a half-hour trip and you're at the Grandstand. Or from the bus terminal, you decide, okay, I want to go Peel so that I can do Selby, Crosby, or that side of the track, or I'm going to get on the bus to Ramsey and I'm going to go that side and go to Ramsey. Or I'm going to get the bus back from Ramsey, I'm going to do the internal section of the circuit. Or I'm going to go up on the electric rail and I'm going to head up onto the top of the mountain. All literally in half an hour, you can be on the right bus going to where you need to go. What else do you want? As a TT fan, you know you've got to get out to the area you want to get out to before they shut the roads. So that's the one thing you got to just take into account, that you've got to make sure that you're there on time. Otherwise, you miss the opportunity to get to where you want to go, because when the road's shut, that's it. You're not going anywhere. And you can't move from space to space unless you know the internal routes.
Yes.
Which fortunately these days with GPS, a lot easier than what they were in the past.
Yes,
so you can find a way to go from the top of the mountain down to Crigney Bar inside, and then from Crigney Bar back down to Governor's Bridge to see the final, whatever. There's ways to get around. The buses, of course, if I can tell you how well that bus service works, buddy, it's like, if I could get that bus service to work and Qatar could take an example from them, we'd be living in a different world right now. They're amazing. They really are. And literally at the bus drivers themselves, but at the main terminus, the guys are so helpful. And they will literally tell you, listen, you've missed this bus, but you've got a half-hour break, so sit down and eat your meal. That's because they can see you got a takeaway. Have your meal, half an hour, the bus will be here. He's not going to take you to Noble's Hospital front door, but he goes past the hospital and you'll just have to walk in.
Yes.
That's how good they are. So from that side of things, it was brilliant. Then, of course, we moved on to race week. And race week, we went slightly higher up in the echelon of Duke travel. They've got a little thing called TT Village, which from my little cabin house in TT Village to the media door is a 10-minute walk.
Okay.
So that from a working point of view and a working person's point of view, it's probably the better place to be, and it's where I'm looking to book for next year.
Yes.
So that negate the sort of $3,500 I had to spend on bus, because I don't need it.
Travel, yeah.
I only need to get to the village, which is a £3.30 bus trip, and I need to get to the airport, which is the same.
Yes.
So that takes out the whole necessity of the buses.
Okay.
Because literally the TT Village, I found out afterwards when I did the one walk the one night when I missed dinner, and I thought, it's raining, I'll just take a walk down. On my very first time that I arrived on the island, when, of course, I had to wait for AJ because he was being police escorted in because he'd forgotten his license and he was doing a lap of the circuit, which we'll tell you about at another time, or you can ask him about it. When he got back there, Johnny said to me, no, I've parked the van just down the road. So I was like, okay, cool. So we'll walk down the road. He said, but we're going to go up the hill to get to the car. I said, no problem at all. Now I'm thinking it's down the road and up the hill. Not knowing we had to go up Mount Everest, because the promenade is like this, okay? Where the bus was parked was like that. So I walked down the hill, and when I got to the halfway point, I went, this is the hill that bloody Eastern Gauteng, Edenvale gym boxer policeman made me run up in 2018 with my bag on my back, the bastard. But anyway, so yeah, when we got there, when I walked down, I was like, I know this hill. And of course, from the TT Village to the promenade with that walk, it's not an easy walk, but it's a walk, is a 15-minute walk. So everything is accessible from the TT Village.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it only sleeps 2. So if you want to do more than 2, you've got to sort of book. There's 130 rooms that they've got. Okay. So you can put 260 people in there. They do a breakfast every morning, which is included in the price.
Okay.
Like a proper English style breakfast, beans, eggs, bacon, everything. Their coffee and tea station runs all day. So you've got coffee and tea the whole time, whenever you want. And then they've got like a little merchandise stand, which you can buy some of their stuff and some of the official TT stuff as well.
So what the viewing point was, though, how far are you from a decent viewing point?
So, as I said, to the grandstand is a 10-minute walk.
Okay.
From there, you can get onto the bus and go anywhere.
Okay.
Or you go out the back car park onto the road that runs parallel to Glen Crutchy Road, and the bus stops literally at the gate of the car park.
Okay.
So you climb on the bus there, and you can go internal to Ramsey, or you can go back to Douglas and catch whichever bus you want to go to get to the viewing points that you want to get to. Everything works on the island in terms of bus transport if you don't have your own official transport.
Okay.
But as a person that comes in as a fan that wants to go to whichever viewing point they want to go to, the bus is the only way to go.
Yes. Because
to hire a car, to hire a motorbike, to hire even a bicycle, I even looked at hiring a bicycle when I was staying at the camp, because sometimes I thought, I'm going to miss the bus, I'm not going to get there, and I don't feel like trapping 7.5 k's in the rain. Is maybe an option. No, it's not, because it's a stupid amount of money. It's money you don't need to spend, because the bus system works so well, and they run. Rob, the lights go out on the island at like 11:30 at night. That's when it gets dark. You've literally got daylight into very, very bright evening. What do they call it? There's a word for it. Twilight. Yes. The twilight on the island lasts until about 11 o'clock at night.
Yes.
So you've got literally, what we have here in South Africa, and not what you have in the UK anymore, but we have in South Africa on a good summer's day in Cape Town, goes till about 9 o'clock at night. Isle of Man goes to 11 o'clock at night. So if you've ever been to Cape Town and you realize you're walking around, you're going, holy moly, it's 10 o'clock at night and the sun's still not down. That's exactly what happens on the Isle. You'll be walking around at 11 o'clock at night going, I need to maybe, go home because I'm feeling a bit tired. I wonder why. Oh, it's 10 to 11. That's why. So, your fan coming there from a South African point of view is definitely going to, there's 5 things they need to take into account. One is they're going to have to pay for a bus service, because that'll get you anywhere you want to go. But it also gives you the opportunity that when you have a rain day and that they make a call pretty early on, they know it's it's not going to be a race day. So they're going to say, right, we're not racing today. We're going to wait. We're going to use the contingency tomorrow. When you've got that, you're now got a chance to climb on the bus and go and sightsee. And there's so much to see on the island. The history on the island in terms of the motor museums and the motorcycle museums and whatever else. Just going to Peel alone and having fish and chips if you're there for lunchtime, or if you get there in late afternoon, you just have an ice cream and you go and stand in that bay. There is nothing more pretty in that in the world than that bay at Peel. It's unbelievable. It's really awesome. You've got the chance to do that via the steam train as well, which a lot of people don't get a chance to do anymore. We don't have trains in South Africa. Trains don't work in South Africa. They don't work at all. They're trying to bring it all back. They're wasting their time. Trust me. So from a spectacle point of view, of course, the TT is the TT. You're a massive motorcycle fan. You know how much it means to you when you watch bikes go around a track. But when you experience these guys and you watch what they do on the surface they're given to play on, and the risk involved, and you know the risk because you've been down that road or you've been down the road like you have. You know that in a track environment like Kyle Army, when you had your big one, you were in a safe zone.
Yeah, exactly.
They're nowhere near a safe zone at any point in time. Not a chance. Not even close.
No, it's a cock idea. I said to AJ last night, I've never really been able to connect with TT as much as I have with other racing because of that fact of it just doesn't make sense to me in many ways. It really doesn't. So that's why I'm glad that you've taken over the TT mantle and I can be the MotoGP man and my brother can be the everything man, because I can't have that ultimate connection with it because it blows my mind. But Greg, quickly from a fan point of view, I love the breakdown and you've really become the TT guide for South Africans, which is fantastic. If you had to put a cost on, I don't know how many people would want to do, the 2 full weeks, but a full race week kind of South African cost, a rand cost to do it at a decent level, like with either one of the campsites, the bus pass, the food or anything, like at the level that you did it, where you said you're not staying in a 3-star hotel, which is a fancy one there, but at a camping level and a bus level at your level, what is a realistic grand figure? The
cool thing with that, what they do, Rob, is that they give you a breakdown of a choice of about 3 or 4 different packages. You can do a 3-day or a 5-day during practice week, and you can do a 3-day or a 5-day during race week, but it's split over the race week time. So you can either get in the Superbike and 2 other races, or you get in 2 other races and the senior. Or you've got the option of doing the first night to Wednesday, so you get to see a couple of classes go out and do some practice, or you get the last 3 nights and into the Superbike and Super Sport first races of the week. So with those breakdown, each package comes with whatever you want to do. You want to do the glamping camp, or you want to do the TT village, etc., etc. Your cost in terms of flight, your visa cost, and possibly the little bit of spending money that you need for food, and then some spending money to buy some merch, to buy some bits and pieces. My entire trip, and thanks to everybody, and I mean that sincerely. I mean, I've got a report going out tomorrow to all the sponsors, so they'll know, and every single person that's put some money towards this trip for me is about to be blown away, because I've sent them sort of tidbits all the way along, saying this is where we are, this is where we are, this is where we are. But when I give them those final results tomorrow, I think it'll just warrant what they put in. Yeah. My 2 weeks on the island was 100 grand.
Okay.
So 100,000 rand for 2 weeks, but you don't have to do 2 weeks.
But
I'm doing it as a working event as opposed to a holiday.
Yeah.
But I would say you would want to do either the 3 or 5 day in the race week, because practice is cool, and it gives you a little bit more options to get around in, because it's a little bit more freedom.
Yeah.
But of course, you're there for the racing. You want to see what happens on those races.
Yeah.
So race day, I would say arguably you need to put at least 50 grand together to cover a 3-day package, and I would say probably put about 70 grand together for a 5-day package.
So you're saying
that will get you through if you're willing to go on the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And I'm saying the bare minimum being that if you've checked into the TT Village, you know you're getting a breakfast, so you don't have to worry about breakfast.
Yes.
You can possibly make yourself a sandwich to get you to lunchtime.
Yes.
From the breakfast nook, because you can get cheese and ham and stuff and make a quick little sandwich and take that with you. So you've got lunch covered. And then you're gonna have an extra meal during the day, or you want to buy an ice cream or a couple of beers later if you're that way inclined. You're gonna need to work on about 7.5 to 10 pounds a day for food.
For food, yeah.
For one person, that is. Eh? So remember, this is just for a single person on their own.
Yes, yes.
But fortunately, with what we've got and the relationship that via Motor Rider World and Voice of Choice that we've now built with Duke, they've given us preferential rates.
Okay.
So we have a slightly better rate than what the average Joe would buy if they went straight to Duke and got that. Okay. And I kind of negotiated that with the two Pauls from Duke, and I said to them, listen, we are in hard times. It's the bottom line. The whole world is, but particularly South Africa, because if I'm coming in here 25 to 1, you got to understand that my money means nothing here.
Yes.
So you've got to help me out to give me an option to be able to promote this and get bums in seats for you or bums in beds for you, because that's what you want. And I want as many South Africans to be there because I want to know that they're there to support what we're doing and what AJ's doing.
Sure.
And the potential he's got to go the route he's going. Without that sideline, I mean, there was a lot of South Africans on the island. Don't get me wrong. There were a lot. But I think had there been half as many or even 3/4 as many, AJ, besides other riders, has arguably one of the best fan interactions that I've ever seen out of a rider.
Sure.
He has time for everybody all the time. Whether he's walking up to get onto the bike to go out, or listen, when you get to the start line and not Gary, when Mark touches your shoulder and sends you, just as you go out the gate, just look to your left and just give me a look. I don't need any more. But that's what he does. You know, he's going out on a practice session or he's about to start the race. And I said to him, listen, before you go, as you go out the gate, just as you go out, just look left so that I can zoom in on you looking left and I can give you a commentary saying, okay, my boy, go, hit it, you know, send it. But a super stock race 2, please do this. As he came out the gate, look left, right into the face of that HJC that he had on. Come on, can't get better than that.
No, you can't.
But then comes in, has to do a changeover from super stock to twins. We do that fun Casio timed leather change like we saw with Alex and you and I in the media center having a good laugh about it. And I said to him, listen, Alex did it in 3.5 minutes. Let's see if we can do better. Came in, cocked on him, drilled him. But at the same time, he's got Manx Radio coming to him and doing the interview while he's busy doing it.
Changing,
and he's got the time to talk to them. There was an elderly gentleman, sort of 2 riders down at one stage. I think he'd worked with AJ, he'd worked with one of the teams that AJ was in, had quite a bad stutter.
Okay.
Kept coming up to ask, where's AJ, where's AJ? He kept missing him. Eventually they hooked up. All the guy wanted was AJ to sign his accreditation. Didn't want anybody else. He just wanted AJ. No problem. There you go, mate. Quick little chat, 5 minutes, off you go. Now, don't get me wrong. AJ's not the only one who does that.
Yeah, no, sure.
But there is a lot more consideration given by him than there are by the other riders.
Sure.
Understandably, as you and I saw at MotoGP, and anybody goes to MotoGP or anybody goes there are times that they cannot give you that focus. No. They cannot give you that 2 minutes. They've got to then get into that race face, visor down, let's go. With him, Bud, it doesn't matter what time of the day it is. That's what blows me away about that. I promise you, I cannot tell you how amazing he is when he's literally climbing on a race bike and heading into no man's land.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's
a triangle, no, it's amazing. So that Duke travel kind of thing, then, if people want to start planning for next year or whatever, can they now start reaching out to you, or is that still?
Yeah, please do. No, please do. On my page, as you know, you've got the WhatsApp option. So if you go onto the Voice of Choice page, there's a WhatsApp there. Just send me a WhatsApp. I'm just waiting for Duke to finalize. I've asked him specifically because of Zunaid. I asked him specifically to send me what the packages are going to be for next year.
Okay.
From a the glamping point of view, the TT Village point of view, and I've asked for a VIP package as well because I don't know if they do one.
Okay.
But I think they can put me in touch with somebody that can give me that option.
Okay.
So that if anybody who does want to come, a high level fan wants to come, and they don't want to glamp and they don't want to spend time in the little box home, then we can give them that option as well. So yeah, there's definitely that option available.
Okay, so there we go. You heard it from the man himself. Get hold of him if you're planning to do TT next year, the year after, or whenever. Get hold of Greg, and again, just all this kind of input. You've been there. I think you've done all the hard graft too, especially as you said, as a South African on a budget. I think you've kind of become the guy to that. Greg, highlight of the TT this year for you?
I think, Rob, the biggest highlight was, last year we got to see that incredible record of Joey's being beaten by Michael. And everybody thought, yeah, that's, new man, king of the mountain, greatest of all time, 100%. When I got there, I kind of thought to myself, well, okay, what is he going to do next? He's got to get 30, which he got in the first race. So 30 wins on a TT bike is a pretty special moment.
Yeah.
The very next race he goes out on, I kind of badged it. No one had even thought about this, other than our good friend old Stevie Reel from Road Racing News. He was the only one who came to me and said, you and I were the only two that thought about this. I think the biggest highlight for me was to see the Magnificent Seven.
Mm.
And when I talk about that, it's 7 races in a row that Michael won. And by winning on the pattern and then winning on the Ducati, was the second Magnificent Seven in being the only rider to ever win on 7 different manufacturers.
Yep.
So it's a double Magnificent Seven for me. That was arguably the biggest talking point I had of race week. And I chatted to Michael, and he was, you'll see and I know that the article didn't quite work out with the pop-ups like we had last year. So if you want to see those interviews, guys, please go and check it out on Motor Rider World or on my page. Yeah. But particularly the one with Michael, where I asked him about the fact that he just set, another record. Mm. And he literally turned around to me and he said to me, I'm not here about records. I'm just here to win races. I don't care about records. But when Stevie asked him the question, he changed his whole mindset. And he was like, no, that's quite cool. I think he just betted, it was the race that he betted McGuinness's podium record. And I think that kind of turned his focus, because he hadn't realized that he'd done that. I mean, McGuinness had the record for, I think it was 52 podiums, and now Michael had betted that. So he changed his focus. And then when I shut the camera down and we were sitting waiting, and they go up, of course, onto the stage, and in the fan park, they all get to have a rah-rah with Chris. And I went up to him, I said to Mark, I said, I didn't mean to be, horrible in the question. He said, no. He says, but that's how I feel. He says, I'm not worried about the records. I said to him, okay, then I've got to ask you a question.
Yes.
And you'll appreciate this. I said to him, is there a possibility that MD Racing might look to buy an Aprilia next year? And he had a good chuckle. And I said to him, the Aprilia finished 3rd. The patterns are definitely the bikes to be on to win if you want to win twins. But if Aprilia is probably the next best bet. And AJ will attest to that as well, because his team have bought Aprilias. Yes. They're going to get rid of the Kawasaki and they're going to ride Aprilias for next year. Yes. And they are very competitive motorcycles.
Yes.
You put MD Racing onto Aprilia with their technology and their input and Michael's tweaking.
Yeah.
Does that become number 8?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of hoping they go that route. I mean, he probably will have the standard Michael Dunlop option. Okay, well, the Ducati's not working. Don't worry. The trusty Yamaha is in the trailer. If I've got to whip it out, I'll whip it out. He didn't have to. That Ducati was phenomenal, bro. Yeah. Phenomenal. If you hear Dean's interview, when I spoke to him and I said to him, what was the deciding factor there? He said, I'm in 5th gear and I cannot get to 6th because the wind is not allowing me to change to 6th gear to give me the top end of the bike. He says that Ducati is in 6 flat to the locker.
Still pulling, yeah.
Michael's pulling up the hill. I'm not able to do that. He says, and as much as I tried, I just could not get near him.
Yeah, yeah. But Greg, let me put my hand up here. This is again from a guy that's not as dived into TT as you are, and I respect Michael Dunlop to the end of the earth, and I'd take nothing away from him from all his titles. But I do, and this is maybe my MotoGP and World Superbike knowledge and background and the way I see things coming. I look at the Super Twins and him winning in the Super Twins, and I go, for me, that's not fair. It's like Pecco Bagnaia going to Moto 3 in many ways and winning. Do you see where I'm coming from? I look at it.
No, I know. So you're looking at it as a stepping stone.
Yeah, but surely Super Twins should be the right for those guys coming into TT and a chance for them to go now win. No, it's like, well, no, Michael Dunlop's just stealing the spotlight every time, and I mean this with all due respect, but I just look at it. Let the Twins be the guys outside the spotlight. Let that be their spotlight.
It is becoming that, Rob.
Is it?
Look at the podium.
Yeah.
Look at what happened on the podium.
Yeah.
Look who was there. I mean, you had Mikey Evans, who unfortunately was disqualified because his team failed to bring the bike to park for me afterwards. Rookie mistake. Yeah. Take nothing from the team. It broke Mikey. He was literally in tears when it was announced. Yeah. Even Michael was like, no, that's a load of bullshit. What the hell is that all about? That's not right. The Oak rode his brains out, just because his bike wasn't there to be stripped afterwards, because they literally stripped the bikes completely. I was like, yeah, maybe a little bit unfair, but rules are rules. How many times has Brad been caught out? How many times has Darren been caught out? How many times have we all had a go at Freddie, and then possibly now even a few times at Simon? The rules are there. So you play by the rules. And the reason the rules are there is because at TT level, you do not abide by the rules. Because it can kill you. It's that simple.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I agree with you, because what I've seen from last year with the few riders that made it into the TT podiums last year, I'm just trying to remember the rider's name. It'll come to me now. But Mikey Evans is an example. And then Rob Hodgson.
Yeah, Rob Hodgson.
Manx rider, bud, on the podium. I didn't get to him in time, unfortunately, but thank goodness I was on my way to the bus and he was on his way back from the media pen, and I literally caught him on the return road. And we did it. It was off my phone. It wasn't even on my rig. And I got that interview. That interview was probably one of the best I had, because he was in such a great zone, having won on his home island on a motorcycle that he had built and prepped himself on that SME machine of his. I was like, that alone shows you what we did in the past, when we spoke about it earlier, where we had to do the smoke and mirrors, and I was at TT, but was I? But I was at TT. So, and Tracy will attest to that. I know Tracy's watching. So the few times that I got some stuff, it kind of came from Tracy Lynn Fenter sending me the dodgy photos that we put up, and went, how the hell did you get that photo? We have our means and ways. But yeah, in saying that, I agree to a certain extent that there should be a chance for other riders to go, and maybe that should be a stepping stone they look at, like they did in the past, where you did 50s, you did 125s, you did 250s, you did 350s, then the senior. So is that a route that TT want to go? I don't know. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
It's not a bad observation, I got to tell you, because if I look at who is performing in the Twins, it is all the new riders, other than the top guns. So Davey was there, but didn't perform on the same bike as Michael. Okay, was it the same pattern?
Yeah.
Watch Davey's interview; he'll disagree with you.
Yes.
Michael was there; he's always going to be there. Peter Hickman would have been there on the Swan Yamaha. Okay, so they probably would have dominated those three, but with them not being there, it opened the door for Rob and for Mikey. So now you go, if Michael's not there,
exactly,
there's AJ, dude, 5 bikes back, fighting for a podium now, not fighting against Michael Dunlop on a all-conquering pattern. And AJ's in the Twins. It's his best class.
He's got a good chance.
I know he wants to make the big bike his best class eventually, and that's the plan that they've got at FE, and what they want to do with Future Exotics and the whole PR monster that goes with that. But right now, on a twin, AJ is in his element. And the Kawasaki performed really well. But having chatted to Trevor and to Willis, they reckon that Aprilia is streaks ahead of the Kawasaki.
Yeah.
And they put AJ onto that, he's going to be a whole other ballgame. He'll probably podium next year at Northwest. And if he does that, that just puts him into, fast forward mode for Super Twins at TT. The other thing you ought to take into account is the riders of Rob Hodgson, of Mikey Evans, of AJ, that caliber are all now in that seeding for Twins as well.
Yeah,
so take away Michael, take away Davey, take away Peter. It becomes, it's not a rookie class, but it becomes the stepping stone class like you were speaking about. So make the Twins, the availability of the Twins purely for riders that are looking to make a name for themselves. I agree with you 100%. And I think it's probably the way to go, Rob. And it's not a bad thought pattern. However, the powers that be still see Twins as a big factor.
No, sure. I understand that. Give me your final thought now on being at the island there. I think a couple of years or even last year we spoke about, even here in the UK, there was big talk of TT's time is very limited. Northwest was up, they'd lost their license and insurance, and it seems though that's kind of been pushed away, and TT this year and Northwest this year again was right at the top of its game.
So there's two letters and one word that brings it back into where it is right now. TT Plus and live stream.
Yeah.
So what we had in the past was edited highlights via Greenlight Television or BBC or BBC Ireland or ITV Ireland, whatever the companies that are there. But Greenlight basically have the rights to it.
Yeah.
They put the production together. They own TT Plus, and they own the rights to, like you and I experienced, you may not film on track whatsoever. Okay?
Yeah.
It doesn't stop the average Joe on the sideline with his cell phone doing whatever he does, catching some stuff, because some of the stuff that they caught was not caught by them. Yes. And stuff was put out, which that's the reason why they're trying to avoid that, is that they don't want incorrect information being put out when a rider has a big crash, which is the right thing to do. Safety first, no matter what. But when we spoke, as you said, like 3 years ago, we thought, how much longer can TT go on? Is it gonna last? Northwest, well, no license. They're not gonna. No, Mabry, I've got to tell you, the invent of live stream television, and particularly the monster that TT Plus has become, has rejuvenated Isle of Man TT racing to a whole nother level.
Yeah, that's what I thought,
it's the same way that the new acquisition of MotoGP and World Superbikes in terms of the buyout from Dorna. Same thing happened with F1. It's just going to do this, but it's not on a downward spiral. It's on an upward curve. Probably for, I want to say, touch wood, until something really bad happens. And I mean, you can't get worse than a death, but how many deaths have we had? It's part and parcel. And everybody that goes there will tell you the same thing. If you don't like it, go home and mow your lawn. Yes. That's what the riders tell you. They're not there. They understand the risk. They understand what they're doing. They are there to do what they're going to do. It's the thing they love the most. If that's where they go and that's how it ends, that's how it ends. It's a horrible way to say it, for sure. I mean, us as normal human beings, you can't contemplate that. No, but as I said, they're another animal. They are not the same kind of people that you and I are.
Yep.
And when the likes of, Gary Martin as the COC stands up and has to make that call that I sent you on the one interview we did, and at the end you can see just how emotional he was.
Yeah.
He's come to the end of 2 weeks. It's the culmination of the 2 weeks into the senior TT, which is supposed to be a 6-lapper, and with 30 minutes to go, has to say, guys, we're done.
Yeah.
We're not racing.
Yeah.
That alone, I mean, it's, what did I watch? I watched something last night. I can't remember what it was. Some sitcom that the girls were watching. A decision had to be made. And there was one guy that had to make the decision. And he was lambasted for it by his superiors.
Yes.
And his comeback was, well, in those times, there has to be one person that's got to stand up and say yes, or no.
Yeah, you got to control
that
it.
decision has to be made. It's not negotiable.
Yeah.
Once it is made, the repercussions of both are varied and variable. So we race, and somehow it gets blown off the side of the mountain. Big trouble.
Yes.
We don't race, and 60,000 people go home unhappy because they missed the senior. I put it in the article.
Damned if you don't.
Well, that's TT for you.
Yes,
it's exactly that.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast, and it's the factors that are out of human control that are brought in at that point in time. So TT is here, bro. I don't think we're going to be seeing the end of it for a long, long time, due to the fact that we now have a marketable event compared to the older days where, do you really want to be involved?
Yes.
You know, do I want to be involved in an event that could possibly have a couple of fatalities?
Yes.
Sponsors will look at that for sure. Big sponsors in Europe, big sponsors in the UK are not moving away.
No.
They are there. You know, where is it? This side or this side? Where is that side? Yeah. Monster are there. They want to be involved. They know the risks. They know what can come of it. They know the fallout that it can have for their company. Honda UK are there. BMW are there. Rocket are there. Carl Cox is there. Brad Pitt is there making a movie about it.
Yeah.
Dude, that alone, same as what he's done with F1, it's going to blow the roof off F1 in terms of fan base. Fan base is going to go off the charts once that F1 movie comes out and everybody's seen it.
Yep.
I looked at it from a marketing point of view when we're still doing West Bank Super Series, and some of the stuff that I used to look at was how things changed from Vodacom Power Tour to what we did at West Bank Super Series, and then I looked at what people were doing overseas and how they were changing up their thinkings in terms of marketing and promotion of their events. And the one was NASCAR, and of course NASCAR was so close to my heart because of what my dad did with the V8s. And I kind of looked, and I delved into it in a big way, and I looked at it and I went, you know what? There was a big up in NASCAR for a while, and then of course Dale Earnhardt moved off, and the big rivalry between him and Jeff Gordon had gone. New drivers were coming through, and there wasn't really anybody that anybody knew. There wasn't a name. So there was an open door policy for everybody. Now, there's no longer an open door policy in any of the events that we cover. There are the big names, there are the fillers, and there is the marketing that goes around them. Same thing applies to TT. But F1 took a bit of a slump because of the whole, do I like Lewis or don't I, because he's winning so much. And the same thing applies now with Max. Max, dominant for so long. Now things are changing. Chuck in a little Hollywood, 2-hour F1 spectacular with none other than Brad Pitt. And all of a sudden you've got a fan base that goes, this F1's not bad. Maybe I should look at the real stuff. Yeah. And there's another million people, another 60 million people watching F1. That's what they want. Same thing applies to TT. Put that TT movie out with Brad Pitt and whoever else is going to star in it. All of a sudden, you got another couple of million looking at TT going, it's not that bad.
Yeah, Pikey who likes dogs. That's the best combination.
Hey. I like dogs. But we don't talk about Fight Club, eh?
No, we don't. No, we don't talk about Fight Club. Rudy Pillay,
talk about Fight Club.
Our mate Rudy Pillay is throwing in some comments here about my Tesco water and Greg, you beauty. And so, Rudy, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Miss you, my buddy. I miss those trips to PE and always.
Listen, Rudy, just remind him. I did send him the Hulk BMW, and he said he better make sure that Hulk BMW is available when I come to PE next year, buddy.
We saw it, the Silverstone edition. We saw it.
Yeah, X5 Hulk-colored BMW. I'm not going to take anything less than that, unless it's an XM.
There you have it. Greg, my bad. I think I speak on behalf of myself, my brother, everyone that's tuned in. What you've done, last year was brilliant. This year took it to a whole new level. We really got inside and closer to TT than certainly I've ever been exposed to from the stuff that you did. It's brilliant that you're finally kind of cracked the nod as one of the big players there now, being invited to the smallest cog, and there's Richard Hammond sitting next to him on a grandstand, and he talks back to you. You know, it's great to see the recognition there now. And as I said, I think for myself and everyone, brilliant job. The 50 million
Thank
views
you.
are testament to it. And I personally can't wait for next year's one to see how we can go even bigger and better from what you're doing. And the fact that, again, you've broken that mold and you've got yourself into there now with you travel to potentially offer South Africans better deals. And the whole portfolio is just broadening and expanding. So excited for the times ahead.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really good. You know, the whole platform we've now sort of built and established for Motor Rider World, and me as the representative there, as the voice of choice, also, you know, works well for what we've got here. You know, it doesn't stop at TT. It kind of culminates into the support we got from MotoGP for Farouche, for Farouche, for Darren, what Darren's plans are. Stephen doing incredible jobs on podiums almost every single weekend. He climbs on a motorcycle these days. And then, you know, I know that, you know, we kind of, you kind of focus on the two-wheel side of things, but I have to focus on the bigger picture of motorsport in general as well. But in saying that, it also filters all the way through in terms of what we do. You know, I've got car guys coming up to me going, you know, how was TT? How amazing was it? You know, some of the sponsors that are involved, they're all car guys.
That's what
but we're kind of shifting them to the two-wheel side. And I'm hoping that with that, and particularly with what we do with AJ, chatting to Clint, chatting to other riders and stuff like that, the wonder we had as South African Superbike Championship when you were involved and I was looking after the PR side of it, when I was looking after Westbank Super Series, before that at Vodacom Power Tour, we've got to get that back again. Yeah. It's the biggest and the saddest lack of motorsport in this country is no national Superbike champion. And that's got to change. So there is a bigger picture here as well in terms of what we do and what I do in terms of promoting motorcycles. It's not the fact that I'm going to TT and wow, I love TT and I'm getting a free holiday out of it. If anybody wants to come to TT and see how hard it is, the last day I spent, just to give you a final sort of outlook on how it works, TT seniors cancelled. Okay, so now what? Well, I've got to go and finish off the posts that I've got. So finish those off. All right, now take a walk down that killer hill. Go and have a fish and chips. Sit there on the side of the promenade after an intense week of racing that's been mind-blowing on all levels, as we've spoken about, and go, this is not how it should have ended.
Yeah.
And in saying that is exactly what I'm saying in terms of South African Superbike Championship and South African Superbikes in general. This is not how it's supposed to end. We had arguably one of the best Superbike championships in the world here at one point in time. And it ran from the 80s into the 90s into the noughties. Where's it got to? Why are we not there? We need to get that ball rolling in. We need to get the powers that be to start negotiating with riders, with manufacturers, with everything. You shaking your head. You know how difficult it is.
They're not listening to
my promotion of the sport is a promotion of the sport in general, not literally what I do at TT. TT is one aspect of it, but it's a big draw card to make noise. And the fact that I've got a former national championship rider involved in TT, I've got a former national championship rider speaking to me on the weekend at ZX10 saying he looked at it at one point in his career when he was still doing the German road racing series that he was involved with Clint, and said he could not bring himself to do it. But then you've got 4 or 5 riders who've already shown interest in TT. But in order to do TT, they have to have a national championship. If we don't have a national championship, what do they do? So, Rob, but if I can also just to finish up, you know, I can't do this without you. And, you know, I know the reciprocation has come from what we've done in the past and how we work together and how I got you involved in my world and you brought me into your world. I've got to say a massive also thanks to everybody behind that helped me. You know, there's big names in motorsport that climbed on board. They all know who they are. I'm not going to mention them by name because I don't want to leave anybody out. And then they turn around and say, you know, you didn't mention. They know who they are. They were unbelievable. It was a phone call and the next day, whatever was asked for was done. And the return on investment that I give them is the fact that the continual promotion of the sport doesn't stop me from just talking about motorcycles. When I know that somebody's helped me out in whatever aspect they've helped me out, it could be for R5, could be for 500 Rand. That person gets the same amount of reciprocation from my side every time I've got to mention their brand or their sponsor or their car or their driver or their rider. It's how it works. I make sure you know it from commentating with me that we talk about, Kinsella winning the ZX10R Masters Cup, unbeaten for the last 6 races in a row. But Ian at the back, Nico Zietzman at the back, and Tyler, Piper that has a problem. Tyron Piper that has a problem on the side of the road. They get a mention as well.
Yes,
their sponsors get a mention.
Yeah.
We make sure that we cover all the bases, and that's what people want. And as you know, what we're doing right here tonight, the ability to interact with the friends, fans, and family we've got in the sport. That's what I love the most about what my job is right now. I don't like to be standing in a tower where I'm just talking and hoping everybody's enjoying it. I love the fact that we get this interaction, that people can comment. They can say, "You're talking shit, Greg," or "Yeah, great comment," or "Well done, Rob." Or that's what I want, because they're going to go and tell their friends about us.
Sure.
Their friends are going to tell their friends about us. The exponential growth on social media is unquantifiable. And that's what I want people to walk away with here tonight, is that, yes, we've got that amount of million views, but I want that amount of million views to be shared and passed on to their friends and family, so we double it, triple it. We went from 11.5 million this last year to nearly 5 times as many this year. So thanks, everybody, for the support. Thank you for what you guys did from South Africa to tune in, to watch, it's during the week when you're at work. So, for you guys to pick it up later on and still like and share and pass it on, that's much appreciated. When you're sitting there going, yes, this is a lot of work, and this is, away from home, and it's pouring with rain right now, and people are walking around your tent camp, knocking the tent pegs back in the ground because there's such a big wind. The one night I thought, I was waiting to see a Treyu go past on the Luck Dragon, bro. That's how big the storm was. The nothing pulled into the Isle of Man. I'm not joking. It was a storm that I've never experienced in my life. So but it's what we do. It's what we love. We're not going to do it again, but let's go now.
Well, that's the thing. We just keep coming back for more. And I think the one big thing you didn't mention, Greg, is how I spoiled you with accommodation for Silverstone.
Listen, the official version of that was Airbnb in the UK is arguably one of the biggest farces you've ever seen in the world.
We were
and there was a Jeremy Clarkson official pause in the world, okay? Because when Rob showed me the accommodation we were going to be in, I was like, yeah, that's proper cool. We got a lounge, we got a little TV, a little kitchenette, bathroom. Rob's going to take the couch, I'm going to take the bed. We're good. We're sorted. No worries. It's only 3 nights. We'll be fine. Until we arrived at Del Boy and Rodney's flat.
A hostel. It was a hostel.
It was that bad. Thank God we found the little Sun One or whatever it was down the road, and we managed to find out that not only were we staying there, but half of Dorna was staying there, and Arush and Woodley and Ruche were staying there too. So it wasn't that bad. And literally across the road, what do we have? We had KFC, we had Burger King, and we had, I think, Taco Bell. Can't go wrong.
Subway. Yeah.
Subway. No, can't go wrong.
No, we pulled it out of that.
But ladies and gents, let me. He mentioned it in his football trip. When I first met this man, his nickname was Bobby Idol. Okay? It hasn't been mentioned for a long time. If you haven't ever had a chance to hear the singing voice that comes out of this man on my left-hand side, do yourself a favor and just go and search Robert Portman music, okay? On any social media platform, you'll find something there. Or I'm sure Rob will put something out at some point in time. Spectacular musician. A voice that I can tell you right now, if you listen to and you like, the likes of Linkin Park and that kind of music, and you think you've heard somebody that can wail, okay? You haven't heard anything until you've heard Rob Portman at full tilt. But the point I'm getting to is Rob, Bobby Idol, Portman, okay? The trip from Silverstone back to the magnificent little village of Fleet, where his
Yeah.
absolutely amazing, my other family live. Okay. And
Yes.
Amy, kids, mom, thanks so much for the hospitality for the one night. The choice of music on the trip back in the hire car was, if I put it lightly, out of this world. Because we went from the theme tune of Peppa Pig to somebody talking about the Lord himself coming down and raining hell on somebody because they walked across the lawn and had a wee on some oaks grass. The verbiage that came out of some of these oaks, you can't work out what they're saying, but an experience I will never forget.
I had to treat you. I had to look after you.
It was amazing.
So
And halfway through, where do we go to?
Huh?
Some country and western sing-along. I mean,
Okay.
I thought I had a big music genre gap.
No.
I'm not even close.
No.
Not even close. This like is no, he's another level. I mean, Spotify. Please don't even start. Go to Rob Portman's iPhone if you want to search for anything on the musical genre level. It's there. Sometimes downloaded by Trey, sometimes inadvertently downloaded by Nova, but it's all good.
Nova, who now knows how to go live on TikTok by herself.
Oh, that was spectacular the other night. Oh, I love that. Eh? Turn on, there's Nova live on TikTok. I'm like, hey, Rob, do you know that Nova's live? Where? Yes. Oh, that was classic. Eh? That was classic.
But Greg, thank you so much, my bud. It's brilliant. As I said, keep up the work. Can't wait for next year to see what you pull out of the hat there and to see what you bring us. Thank you for everything, all the support, everything that you've helped. Again, we've 100,000 followers, Motor Rider World. We've built up this animal in many ways, and it's guys like you that through the tough times and when you could have gone elsewhere and done other things, you've said, no, you're sticking by us. We don't financially benefit you at all. We don't put huge money in you at all. It's all about the teamwork makes the dream work, and we've done that. So thank you.
That's exactly what it's all about, bro. 100%. And I didn't mention Sean, but I mean the amount of effort that Sean and I are putting in on this side. We're working together hand in hand now, also with the ZX10R Masters Cup, which is working really well. Hopefully, we're going to get a chance to actually get on the mic together a little bit as well during the year. It hasn't quite worked out in terms of planning just yet, but there is that in motion. So from my side, Shawnee, massive thanks. I know I passed on all the merch and the helmet to him, and of course, as soon as we get that helmet sorted and the auction's going to go, we need to make big noise about that because when my bags went missing, dude, I can't tell you the guttural fear that was going through me, knowing that my Arrow helmet or your Arrow helmet that has all the multiple TT winners signatures on. Just to give you a little hint on that one, there's a couple of little cameos in there as well. James Whitten is on that helmet as well.
Oh, really?
Steve Plater. Yeah, Steve Plater, Steve Parrish. So a couple of sort of well-known motorcycle racers in their time. Some of them are TT riders. Some of them didn't quite make TT, but are multiple champions in the other genres of the sport are on that helmet too. The fastest ever brothers in sidecars, side by side on the helmet. AJ, of course, being on there. And then the full Rockstar RI race prep that they put together. I mean, they literally put a race visor on for me. They put the special clip on that keeps the race visor down, full tear-off system on it that the riders would have. And they added on, which I didn't even ask for, they put the special race wing on the back as well. So from a priceless TT memorabilia item, it's gone to even more priceless with what we've managed to get over the 2 weeks there. And that was thanks to RI Europe, because I literally took it to them, said, I need this race prepped. Ricardo said, leave it with me. And literally at the door, they had a poster that each of the riders was signing. The helmet was right next to it. As they signed the poster, they signed the helmet.
Jeez.
It was amazing. They were spectacular in terms of but that's what they do. That's what they do at TT as well. They look after their RI branded, clan unbelievably. Any rider who walks into RI VIP tent there gets their RI helmet serviced and prepped as if it's a race prepped helmet.
Yeah.
So I think that alone, when that announcement comes out, I'm not quite sure when you and Sean are planning that, but anybody listening in now, seriously, that is an item that would be a prime and prized possession in a motorcycling or even just a motorsport fans man cave memorabilia, whatever it is. It's proper.
Yeah, it'll be going out soon, and as you said, it's almost priceless in many ways. So keep a lookout on the Motor Rider World channels for that. Greg's channels, he'll boost that as well. And as much as we love Arrow, HJC is also a fantastic helmet. So
no, yeah, 100%. No. Look, HJC were the main sponsor there, and I'm not knocking them in any way because of course Ryan put me onto Arrow, so the relationship is still there. I do love the fact that that AJ, despite what was the prize at his launch, being the rival brand, didn't knock it. You know, he started his TT career in an Arrow. He's now continued, and that's the one also great thing about what he does. He is very much loyal to a brand that are loyal to him. So, you know, as much as he signed the helmet and he promoted it, we didn't promote it as an Arrow, but we promoted it as a TT replica that Arrow make.
Yes.
So it is a TT replica helmet. They make one every single year that's completely different to any other helmet in the world. Yes. It's completely unique to that season's Isle of Man TT. And it gave us a chance to put some money, hopefully, behind South African racing, which is what Sean has decided to do with it.
Yeah.
And also, you know, well done to him. That if it would be you and me, it'd probably be up here. But no, he decided no. There's a couple of other little youngsters that are involved in motorcycle racing that might need a bit of support to get to Europe and get to their international careers on the right track. So let's do that. Support them, guys.
Let's do that. Greg, thank you so much, my bud. Thank you to every single person who tuned in. It's been great. It's been great having 3 days back to back with lives. We did Talking MotoGP Tuesday, Talking TT with AJ last night, rounding it off now with Talking GP and TT with Greg. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and
thanks, guys.
To chat to you all soon.
Rob, catch you soon, buddy. And to everybody out there on Facebook and social media land, thanks so much for the support over the 2 weeks I was there. Keep up the support throughout the year. Big events still coming up, as I mentioned at the beginning of the live that we did here. That'll be on my page. It'll be on Motor Rider World's page. So we'll bring you all up to date to international and local action all the time. And to all my sponsors, massive thanks once again for the support. Can't wait to show you what the figures are tomorrow. I think you're all going to be blown away. And look forward to doing more of the same. There is no better motor journal in the world than Motor Rider World. So please support Rob and Sean and what they do. I've seen it. I've seen what the international guys are doing. I've seen what the local guys are doing. It's chalk and cheese. There's no doubt about it. So Rob, from our side, a massive thanks to you. To the fam, please send my love. And we'll see you soon. Take care then. Bye-bye now.
There we go.